Hey, Mike Pilcher, just coming back to you to finish this panel. Now I've just masked it off, and what I've done is I took off the old mask. This is the ripped open piece that we've been working on with the skull and the fire. So what I've done is I ripped all the masking off, wiped it down, cleaned it, and then I've masked off this area where the skull and the fire and everything is. And what we're going to do is we're going to do wood, a border. Okay, so we're going to do a wood grain border. So I'm showing you something that I only show people that takes my advanced classes. That you know, because it's just one of the techniques that a lot of people know about it, a lot of people don't, and more don't know about it than do know about it. So it's real simple technique. What we need for supplies is a simple paintbrush, just a cheap paintbrush. And I'm using some red. Now this color, it's base coat, clear coat. It's the same paints that I am using for the airbrushing. So it's PPG, base coat, clear coat. This is kind of like a cherry, candy apple cherry red. And what I'm doing, because see I've got a black base. Now I want this old barn wood type look. I want that kind of that burnt wood look. And I'm just taking light strokes, very light strokes. Like I mentioned, I've got the black base here. And it don't hurt to go in some different directions to get that old look. Because if you have ever messed with barn wood, you'll realize that it's got a lot of different grain. And it's got a lot of different shapes in it. You know, it's an old wood. So just applying some light strokes. Now just to show you, I've got a magazine here that I'm using for a palette. So just a magazine. This is just an airbrush magazine. I've poured my red on here and I'm just using it. Here's how I'm loading the brush. Now we don't want to get too many coats on here because what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of buildup from the brush. So we just got to be careful not get too many strokes, because after a while you get a lot of buildup, and then you've got to do a lot of extra work to get that to lay down right. Otherwise you'll have a build-up area. So when we go to put clear on this, it's going to look really cool. Now, one of the things that you might want to do, and here's where it comes into getting too much build-up that I was just talking about. But if you get too much build-up, you can, when you come in with your clear and you put your clear on it, you'll see kind of a texture, which is good in a way because it gives it that real wood look, but you might want to sand it down, like with 1000 grit. You can go with 2000 grit, wet sand it, of course, and use a soapy water after the clear is dried and your wet sand. And what that soapy water is going to do is keep your sandpaper from building up and scratching. Okay, you can wet sand it down, then you can buff it, or just go back over with another couple coats of clear, and it'll lay down flat, and you won't have any edges build up or anything. So just a very good technique that I've been using for a long time and works good. You can also take Scotch-Brite, and when we're putting this paint on here, you can go over this with Scotch-Brite and kind of drag it, and it'll give you a whole different texture as well. So it works really good. We use this quite a bit, this method. And here's the cool thing. You don't see an airbrush in my hand yet, because I'm going to come in with the airbrush, of course, and do some detailing here. But the cool thing about this wood grain let's say you're on a tight budget, and let's just say you don't have an airbrush right now. Well, no worries, because you know what? You can do this wood without an airbrush. You could do this wood, do some stuff, sell it like mailboxes. This is really good to do on mailboxes. Helmets, you could do this on helmets. More so mailboxes. And then you could sell these projects. And then once you sell them, you could take that money that you earn and invest it into your airbrush. So, just an idea. Just some things that I would highly recommend. Now what I've done is I've took some black and mixed with my red. And I'm just going to lightly kind of go over this. Okay, let's just kind of let that flash off a little bit, flash dry a little bit. And then we'll come in with the little bit of yellow. Now I'm mixing these colors together. Let me show you here. So you see what I've done? I've had the red and then the black, now the yellow on top. You just kind of mix them together and it's going to give it that color that we're after, that kind of that burnt brown color that we're after. So just a good little technique. Now this is where I was talking about being careful not to get too much buildup, because this is where you'll get into your ridges. What I mean by ridges is you'll have a buildup here. So each time you go over the brush, you're going to have just a little bit of a brush stroke ridge. Next time, so on and so on. So you end up with too many ridges. So basically what I've got here is a pretty good finish. So I'm just going to call it quits here. And we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and just kind of do some things with the airbrush to enhance this. So I'm back to my Iwata Eclipse airbrush, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go in and just, I've got black in here by the way, so I'm just going to follow this, and I'm out of paint. Didn't put enough in there. So what I want to do is I'm going to follow that edge all the way around my tape line. I'm going to follow all the way around, and I'm going to split the difference here. So I'm aiming right at the tape line. So by aiming at the tape line, I'm going to have half the paint on the tape, half the paint on the actual panel. I'm going to go back up. Remember what we talked about in the earlier videos, is we would rather go back a time or two to get the color, the darkness we're after, rather than to go in there the first time and try to blast it and get it too dark. So it's always better to go back over it another time or two rather than to try to get it all at once. And by putting too much paint on it once, you're also very susceptible to lifting, where you're putting paint over the top of another color that's still pretty fresh. Start piling on too heavy, and you get into some lifting issues. And trust me, you don't want that, because then you ruin your project that you've been working on. So keep that in mind. We'll just kind of let that flash off a little bit. dry just a little bit, and we're going to move right along here and get this panel whipped out. What I'm looking for is a business card, but I'm not finding it. Now, a business card works really good for doing these beveled edges I'm getting ready to show you how to do. I just had it laying here. But I'm going to use a straight edge of a freehand shield here instead. Business card works, I think, the best. But so what we're going to do is we're going to get this beveled edges. So the point of the corner here up to the other point of the panel, I'm going to lay my freehand shield. I'm going to line up the corners, so the corner of the panel to the very corner of this area that I've masked. I'm just going to blow a little bit of black along that edge. I'm going to bring some streaks down. What these are is just dagger strokes. Bringing a few streaks down, not getting carried away. There we've got kind of a beveled edge. I'm going to do the same thing on all these corners. Bringing a few streaks down, dagger strokes. Now, if you can see that very good, let me get the camera up here where you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so what we're going to do now is let that just kind of flash off, dry a little bit. I'll put just a little bit more right here. That looks a little better. Can let that dry a little bit. So now what we can do is we can come in here and make a few knot holes. For airbrush. Basically what I'm doing is just kind of making a little dot and then just dagger stroking up and dagger stroking down out of that dot. Then I'm going to come in here and put a shadow around the whole thing. So just backing away from the panel and putting kind of a fuzzy edge around that whole thing gives it that nice realistic look. So just kind of a dot. Just kind of make that dot a little bit bigger. And then come up out of that dot, dagger stroke. Same thing as you're coming down. Kind of a dagger stroke down. Then back away. Kind of put a fuzzy edge around the whole thing. It gives it kind of a neat look. We don't want to get carried away with those. I don't want to do too many. I'm going to maybe do another one here, just a smaller one. These are really fun to do, but pretty easy to get carried away, and you get too much stuff going on, then you kind of kill your project. pretty good. Now let's couple more little pieces here. What I'm going to do is make like a stained area, so I'm coming down out of that. Just a few streaks. And what that's doing is just kind of make it look like it's stained. It's just kind of running out of those cracks and kind of running down. Gives it that real old look. Do the same thing on these, just kind of pulling away, not getting too close. Just kind of coming down with just a little bit of stain. Kind of helps give it that older look. Pretty cool look. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little bit of white. So I'm dumping my black right back into my bottle. Remember, this is base coat, clear coat. This does not have hardener in it, so we can reuse. We can dump our paint that we don't use right back in our bottles. If you're using paints that's got hardener in it, you can't do that. So I'm a little thinner through it to kind of clean it out. Giving my bottle of white a shake here. Putting just a little bit of white in the airbrush. A couple drops of reducer. Kind of thin it down a little bit. White especially is so opaque that what it'll do is if you don't have it reduced pretty good, it'll try to splatter on you. And you'll end up with white specks all over your panel. And that sucks. You don't want that. Okay, we're taking our art tool here again. Now we're going to go on the opposite side that we just did with the black in these beveled corners. Don't get carried away with the white. Keep it very light. I'm staying back away from the panel. Not getting too close. Kind of going along here, keep it closer to the top, and kind of give it that raised up look. Now right along here, where we've done our little knot, I'm just going to use my little art tool and just kind of get the very top edge. There's some places there. Give it kind of a cool look. I know some of these, you may be having trouble seeing some of this. Now I'm going to have some videos that I'm going to be doing. These videos are going to be up close, and you're going to be able to see step by step what what I'm doing, and I'm talking right up close, in detail, how to do these wood panels, how to do the chrome, fire, everything. We're going to be right up close. You'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing right up close and very close and personal, I call it. You can kind of look forward to those coming out. Okay. Okay, so what we've got is our wood grain. I'm just standing back here kind of looking at it, because that's one of the things you want to do. Stand back, get back away from it, and then you can really see your panel, maybe see what it needs when you stand back away from it. Looking pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So now let's move on here. Let's unmask this. Kind of see what we got going here. And when you unmask, now this is that frisket paper, called transfer paper also. It's a real low tax. You see it don't stick very much. You don't want anything that sticks very hard or aggressive to your freshly painted panel, because what you'll end up with is stuff trying to stick to the panel. Now save these pieces, and you can stick them over somewhere else off to the side, because you might want to come back and touch up some areas. You never know. So I'm pulling down. Don't pull straight out. Don't pull straight out away from your panel, because it's going to really be pulling on your fresh paint. So you always want to pull down or away. Don't pull straight out. Because if you do, you're going to end up at some point pulling your paint. Or you could. You've got it sanded good, you've got it prepped good. Very seldom will you have a place that pulls, but you could. And it can happen. Now also what I've done here to go around this edge is I used a blue, made by 3M, it's pinstriping tape. and I go around all my stuff with that, then put my masking tape on top of that. But this stuff allows you to be able to, it stretches and it'll turn corners. It's for, you know, laying out pinstripes. Or if you wanted to do like the old traditional flames, this is what we use. But you'll have a lot cleaner edges if you use this stuff first. Just plain old masking tape, laying it down, you're not going to have near as clean an edge. You're going to have paint that tries to go underneath in places. So just a good habit to get into. Like we talked about last night in the other video of this panel here is you get what you pay for, and if you want to do cheap, you know, buy real cheap crap, cut corners, then you're going to end up with cheap looking jobs that nobody wants to pay you for. So now what you can do is to look at your whole panel and see what you got. We're going to come in here now and just take a tack rag, just a regular tack rag. We're going to wipe down around all these edges, excuse me, where we just unmasked, wipe it down really good. And if you've got any little edges where the tape was, this will help knock it down. Up close so you can see kind of what's going on here. Okay, it's starting to look really good. So let's put this camera here just so I can still work in front of it. You can see what I'm doing. Now I've still got some white mixed up. So what I want to do is just catch a few of these places that need a little bit of highlight. And I'm going to get up close, just catch a few places that need maybe just a little bit of a highlight or two. We're not going to get carried away. A little bit of white goes a long ways. In other words, don't use too much of it. We're going to use our freehand shield here, because what I want to do is I want to get some white right up next to these edges. I don't want it on the black. And white is so opaque, it gets on everything. So we're going to use these curves, these shields, and aim away from the shield. Don't aim up into the shield, because they'll still try to blow up under it even if you're holding it down. So aim away from it. And you'll get that nice clean edge. This art tool right here, this template, stencil, whatever you want to call it, is my very favorite. It's made by Art Tool, and you can see all the different shapes, these curves. This rounded curve. Then it's got a nice flat edge, straight edge for like a ruler. This here is my very favorite. Now a lot of times when you buy the Iwata airbrush, the clips, a lot of times this will come with it. Now sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. When I was training with Craig Frazier and some of the other artists out in Utah at the Iwata Training Facility, they had all these different kits and things that they was selling, and of course we all had access to that stuff. But yeah, this is my very favorite of all the freehand shields because it's basically it's all in one. It will do everything that you really need to do. I mean, I do fire with this thing. And what I'm doing here with this white is I'm just really going in, and these high spots right here, that's what's going to really look folded over, make it look like it's really standing up off the panel. So that's why I want to go in there and kind of enhance it some more with some more white. I don't want to get too carried away, but I want just some more white right along the top. What would be the top of this? And that's going to give that thing a really rolled, folded look. Could have went right in and just went right to clear coat this thing, but why do that when all we've got to do is just spend a little bit more time and come in here and just detail this thing just a little bit more, because it don't need much. Of course you can keep on going. You know, just like in my shop, whatever the client's paying for, it's kind of what they're going to get. If they're paying for a super high-end job, then they're going to get a super high-end job. I'm going to spend whatever amount of time I have to spend on it to get it done and make it over the top. Custom bikes that we do, if I get one in here that, you know, like a few that I've got coming in, they want these things over the top show quality. So they're paying me $4 or $5 grand to do these. Better believe that they're going to get that kind of paint job. Now, I'm not saying that on the others I don't do good work, because I do. But what I am saying is the more you make all of a sudden, the more time you can spend on that panel. Project, whatever it may be. Okay, we've got this thing looking pretty good. So really I'm going to the highlight spot right there. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to black. Basically, this is going to be about the last step here. We're just going to go in and kind of blend our black in with the existing black and catch a few places that white drifted through. We're going to be ready to go to clear coat. You can't see it in the video. Just a few places, and like I said, that white is so darn opaque. Man, if you're not careful, it'll mess you up. It gets on stuff that you don't want it on. I'm just going around these edges, add on to this existing black here, and I'm just kind of blending some of that same black right into the panel. I have a few places here where the white creeps through. All I'm doing is just going there and kind of cleaning that up. That's going to give our panel a lot better finished look. And I'm going around this edge. So I'm following the edge all the way around this frame with this black. It'll really give it that finished look. And if you have places where your tape didn't stick good, you've got a color maybe showing underneath, which I had just a few little places here. This right here will cover it up. It's also what I'm doing, I'm aiming at the line, following that line, so half my paint's going up on the wood, half of it's going on the panel, and it gives it that soft edge look up here and a soft edge look here. You end up with kind of that beveled look. I've had a few more places here that's showing red. So I'm just kind of going over them a little bit more. You know, the thing about this is, don't get in too big a hurry. Because if you do, you're going to regret it. So in other words, don't get too big a hurry to go in and put your clear on. Make sure you got this thing detailed out right first. So just go around and really look at it, really inspect it, and make sure that you've got everything done before you go in and put clear on it. Once you put the clear on it, then you find something, because trust me, when the clear goes on it, that's when you're going to see all kinds of stuff pop up you may have not seen, but if you've inspected it good before you put the clear on, you might have caught that, save yourself another step. this. Just don't have a whole lot left to do here. What I'm doing here is just taking the freehand tool and just kind of adding a few little detail spots. Around this edge, I'm just kind of cleaning up this edge, using the straight part of my shield to do that. I ran out of paint, so I'm having to add a little bit more black here to my airbrush to finish this thing out. Here's where you got to be careful, because if you take this shield and go on up here, get it up on top of this other, you're going to have that carry through. That overspray is going to carry and follow it through, so make sure your point stops at your beveled edge. If you don't have that nasty looking line that follows on through into an area that you don't want. It'll look like crap. So I'm just kind of going around, just kind of picking, being picky, just cleaning up a few edges. That's real easy to do with your art tool. Put this straight edge on it, you go around and clean things up really nice. And it'll look good. I'm just going to kind of stand back and take a look at it. I think we're pretty good. I'll give you a different look here. I know we're getting some light glare. We've got some pretty bright lights in there, so you get some pretty good glare. This is actually in my booth. So you can really see these places here where they're ripped open. You get this tore open effect. You start to see how it's really starting to pop out. It's starting to look really good. Move this camera around here a little bit so you can get some better ideas. But you can kind of see how they're really folded over, how they're, and see what that white does. It makes it stand up, and then go back in with the black below it, or any darker color, and it gives it that push. So you got push, pull. So your white's pulling, your black is, your darks are pushing, and gives it kind of a cool look. And you can't really see it in the camera, but it's got a little bit of a blue, kind of a blue look up on these, like maybe the sky, the light of the sky is shining down, and then down here below, you've got kind of the ground colors that are showing up. So this is going to have kind of a chromy look when it's all cleared, and it's going to have a real cool look to it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you in the next video. You'll be able to see this panel once I've got it cleared and everything's done, and we'll be working on the next panel. So thanks again. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.